Welcome to a deep dive into an iconic place that, from the outside, it just looks like pure, timeless perfection.
It really does.
We are going straight to Tuscany today, to the province of Siena, to visit the magnificent San Gimignano.
It's often called the medieval Manhattan, which is a great description. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and with its famous 14 towers still standing, it's just this, incredible global treasure.
But our mission today is a bit more than just appreciation.
Exactly. I mean, we will definitely celebrate the art, the history, the amazing food that gives it its value.
But the real focus, the complex challenge here, is preservation. I mean, San Gimignano sits right in the heart of Tuscany along the old Via Francigena pilgrimage route.
Right.
Which means it's always been exposed not just to pilgrims and trade, but to, every threat nature and history could throw at it.
Precisely. We're going to spend most of our time unpacking the really high-stakes technical framework that experts are now using to actively protect this hilltop gem. It's not enough to just admire it. We have to understand the engineering and the planning needed to keep those 700-year-old stones from crumbling. This is all about making a very exposed, very vulnerable site truly resilient.
Okay, let's unpack this, and let's start with that spectacular skyline. It's basically a story of power struggles written in stone.
Oh, absolutely.
Originally, there were something like 72 towers built by these rival families. They were symbols of, economic stability, military might.
All of the above.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, they showed who had the most money and the highest ambitions. That historical rivalry is exactly why the town looks the way it does today.
And the sheer audacity of it, right? Building these private fortresses, it eventually led the government to impose height limits.
But the competition just kept going. It didn't stop them.
That's my favorite part of the story. You have the official public towers, like the amazing Torre Grossa.
Right.
That one's the tallest at 54 meters, started around 1300, and it's the only one you can still climb all the way to the top for the views.
And then you have the Torre Rognosa, which is older, a little shorter at 51 meters, and that one served as the town's prison. So those two represented civic power.
Official power. But then you see the private conflict in buildings like the Torre Salducci.
The famous Twin Towers.
Yeah, they were reportedly built at 42 meters high just to defy the municipal limits. It's architectural defiance.
It is. It's this constant tension between private economic power and, public welfare, which, as we'll get into, is still the central challenge of preserving the town today.
It's literally baked into the core of the city, but San Gimignano's value goes so far beyond who had the tallest tower.
Oh, much further.
So where do we find the core artistic attributes, the things that really make it a World Heritage Site?
For that, you have to go to the main public spaces, the Piazza del Duomo, and that uniquely shaped triangular Piazza della Cisterna. The art there isn't just decoration. It tells the story of the town's civic and religious life.
Let's start with the cathedral, the Collegiata of Santa Maria Assunta. The art inside is just immense.
It is staggering. The interior walls are completely covered in these continuous 14th century fresco cycles.
Like a storybook.
Exactly. The north wall has the New Testament by Lippo and Federico Memmi, and the south wall shows stories from the Old Testament by Bartolo di Fredi. They were the Bible lessons for a population that, for the most part, couldn't read.
And then tucked inside all this medieval art is this little jewel of the Renaissance.
Ah, the Chapel of Santa Fina. It's just this perfect example of Renaissance elegance, created by this masterful team of Benedetto da Maiano, Ghirlandaio, and Giuliano da Maiano. The craft there just reminds you that this town was a huge center for artistic patronage.
What about the civic buildings? The Palazzo Comunale, the town hall that holds the civic museums, and the famous Sala di Dante?
Right, the Hall of Dante, named for the poet who visited in 1299. That room is just dominated by Lippo Memmi's incredible Maestà from 1317.
It's stunning.
But what's maybe even more fascinating, for a window into medieval life, is the Chamber of the Podesta. It has these, slightly surprising scenes of earthly love painted by Memo di Filippuccio.
They're a bit bawdy, aren't they?
They are. They weren't romantic. They were actually moralistic warnings. They were meant to caution the governor against temptation and corruption.
That contrast is amazing. High religious art right next to these political warnings. Okay, let's switch gears from art to something equally important, gastronomy.
Yes. The town's isolation really helped preserve its unique culinary heritage.
And we have to start with the liquid gold.
Vernaccia di San Gimignano, of course. This white wine is historic. I mean, Dante mentioned it in the Divine Comedy.
That's an old reputation.
It is. It wasn't just the first DOCG white wine in Tuscany. It's still the only one.
And it has that specific taste, right? It's dry, a little bitter, but so refreshing. It just cuts through the richness of Tuscan food.
It does. And that local food is a celebration of seasonal, high-quality ingredients. Simple, peasant-derived dishes, but elevated.
You've got the classics, like ribollita. That's not a light soup. It's a thick, hearty meal of black cabbage, beans, and stale bread. The name literally means reboiled.
And then there's papa al pomodoro, that thick tomato and bread soup. These dishes really speak to the idea of resilience, using what you have to create something incredible.
And for a starter, you have to have the crostini Tuscany.
That rich, savory chicken liver pate. It's an authentic taste of the region.
And we can't finish without mentioning the gelato.
Absolutely not. The world-famous, award-winning gelato from Gelateria Dondoli. It turns a simple dessert into a destination in itself.
So we have this perfect, layered, valuable artifact sitting on a sandy hilltop in an active seismic zone. This is where we pivot from admiration to the hard reality of preservation.
And this transition is so critical. How do you protect a place where the very things that make it beautiful, the high-rise, dense, medieval design, also make it catastrophically vulnerable?
So now we're in the world of disaster risk reduction, or DRR.
We are. And the goal isn't just to, slap a brace on a tower. We're talking about programmed conservation that's guided by a values-centered DRR.
What does values-centered actually mean in practice?
It means we don't just treat the site as a bunch of buildings. We treat it as an irreplaceable cultural entity. Preservation efforts get focused on the site's authenticity and its significance for the community.
So the frescoes are a higher priority than, say, a random residential roof.
Exactly. It forces experts to prioritize limited resources based on cultural value, not just structural need.
That makes sense. So what are the specific threats stalking San Gimignano?
Geographically, the hazards are pretty clear. It's classified as seismic zone 3. Earthquakes are the main hazard. But the real danger is in the chain reaction.
Right.
Because the town is built on this substratum of sandy clay and limestone, an earthquake or even just heavy rain can trigger landslides. We saw that happen with the partial collapse of the eastern walls back in 2018.
So the very ground it's built on is a threat. What about the man-made vulnerabilities?
Fire. Fire is a perpetual nightmare in a place like this. A lot of the buildings still have old wooden elements in the roofs and vaults. And crucially, the narrow streets mean fire spreads fast, and getting modern firefighting equipment in there is almost impossible.
Okay, so you've got physical weaknesses, old masonry, unstable geology. But you also mention socioeconomic pressures. I want to dig into that. You use the term functional substitution. What is that?
It sounds like jargon, but it's really about the economic pressure of something like Airbnb. It's the conversion of residential properties into short-term tourist rentals.
Okay, so when a permanent home becomes a B&B, you lose long-term residents. You lose local knowledge.
Exactly. You lose community memory, which is so crucial during a crisis. Who knows the quietest escape routes or where the utility shutoffs are?
The person who lives there year-round, not a seasonal manager.
Precisely. This constant rotation of people directly weakens the town's resilience and its preparedness. You're not just trying to retrofit stone, you're trying to stabilize a community under huge economic stress.